Hi, this is John with SysEng Quick, and today I'm going to show you how to install Arch Linux. So Arch Linux does not have an installer, unlike most other Linux distributions. You get their live CD, you boot into it, and you follow the instructions. So if you go to archlinux.org and click on the download link, and then you can either use the torrent link or you can go look for a mirror and download it from one of those mirrors. I already have the installer, so let's go ahead and boot up Arch and see what happens there. When it boots up, you can just say boot Arch Linux. Alright, and now that it's up, we want to check and make sure we have network connectivity. So I'll just do IPA. Looks like we do have an IP address. Make sure I can get to the internet. Looking good. So I will go ahead and set a password. And I will start the SSHD daemon. That way I can log in from PuTTY, and I'll be able to copy and paste things. Let me change the font size real quick. Alright, so like I said, there is an install guide for Arch. On the download page, you can find that right there under the installation guide, under the ISO size. I have gone ahead and made some notes for myself on how I want to set this up, so I'm not going to follow this guide, but it's pretty good, although you have to keep in mind that sometimes you have to look into the hyperlinks they have here if you haven't seen something, because there might be something you've missed. So the first thing we're going to need to do is partition the disks. So we're going to run fdisk on the first hard disk. We are going to make a primary partition of 512 megs and a second primary partition of the rest of the disk. We'll change the second partition to be an LVM partition, and we'll write the changes to the disk. Now we're going to set up our LVM, or our Linux Logical Volume Management. So we create the physical volume and then the volume group out of that physical volume. And now we're going to create the individual volumes. So I'm making a 4 gig swap volume, a 4 gig var log, a 1 gig temp, and I'm going to use the rest of the space for root, which you can do with the 100% free option on the lowercase l. Capital L is for sizes that you're probably more familiar with, like 4G for 4 gigs. Now we'll need to format the file systems. We're going to use ext4 for pretty much everything. So we're just going to go through and run makefx.ext4 on all of our various volumes. Then for the swap, we'll use makeswap. And finally, we'll go ahead and turn the swap on. Now we're going to mount our partitions so that we can actually use them and install Arch. So we'll mount the root partition first. We'll go into that directory. We'll make some other mounting points, and we'll go ahead and mount the file systems in there. So there's the boot partition, there's the var log partition, and here is the temp partition. And the temp partition needs to be chmod 1777. Now let's go ahead and configure the mirrors. So if we look into the etc pacman.d mirror list file, you'll see a list of all the Arch Linux mirrors. I'm going to filter them out to use only mirrors in the US because that's where I am. So I'm going to run this command, which is going to filter the list for everything that is a US mirror. And it's going to output that into the mirrorlist.us file, and then we'll copy that over the regular mirror list and delete the US file. Now we're going to run the packstrap command, which will bootstrap the new system we're about to use. So it's going to download all the packages, put them in our new mount directory, and once we do that, we can chroot in the system and finish up the configuration. Alright, now that the system has been bootstrapped, let's go ahead and get into the system. First, we'll want to make an FS tab using the gen FS tab, and then we'll use the arch chroot to change into the new system. Now we want to set up the local time, or the time zone, so we need to look in the user share zone info file or directory, and you'll see different places that you can look at to find your time zone. I'm in the Eastern US time zone, so I'm going to do that, and we will link that to etc local time, and then we'll set up the clock file by using the hwclock program. Now we're going to set up the locales, so we'll edit the locale.gen and search for ENUS, because that's where I'm at. I'll use the UTF and the Latin character sets, and then we'll run the locale gen program to generate those locales. Now we'll go ahead and edit my host name. I'm going to use the host name arch, and we'll edit the host file as well. So I'll make 127.0.0.1 to be arch.localdomain arch. And we'll install a couple of packages now. I want to install the Network Manager package to set up the network, and I want to set up grub to boot the system. So we'll go ahead and ask it to install those packages. So we're going to make sure the Network Manager system is enabled, and now we need to make one change to the initial RAM disk. So we need to edit the mkinitcpio.conf file, and we're looking for the hooks equal line. Alright, so between block and file systems, we need to insert LVM2. It's because we set up logical volume management. Now we can rebuild our initial RAM disk by using the mkinitcpio command. Finally, we will change the password for the root account so we can log into the new system. And then all we have to do is install grub to the master boot record and generate a grub configuration. There we go. That should be it. So exit from the chroot and reboot. Go back to the VirtualBox and unmount that CD. And now we are booting into Arch. And there we go. We have a new Arch installation. And that's all there is for installing Arch Linux.